high-end car makers now selling an SUV. Lamborghini this week released their own version of an SUV. Does this mean that prestigious sports car makers like Maserati are going to focus on SUVs from now on? Let's find out. Glenn Seely is the Chief Operating Officer of Maserati in Australia. G'day, Glenn.
How are you, Clinton?
I'm great, Glenn. Now, SUVs. Last year, Maserati released the Levante, and that was pretty different from Maserati. Are SUVs the future for high-end luxury car makers like Maserati?
Look, they're certainly not the future of Maserati in the fact that Maserati will always have its sports coupes, its sports saloons. We are fundamentally a performance and sports car manufacturer. That said, there's no denying that the SUV, and in particular the luxury SUV market, is it's a huge segment now that occupies in Australia way more than 50% of the luxury market. So for us, if we're not in it, we're not in the game.
That's an extraordinary figure. You're saying that half, and this applies to Maserati but all the other luxury car makers, half of sales are coming from SUVs.
Look, the market itself for us, if I look at it in Australia, the SUV market in the luxury terms sits at about 16,000 cars a year, and all the other segments that we compete in for Australia sits at about just over 6,000 cars a year. So you can see the skew in Australia is really significant.
Why do you think Australians in general, I guess it's a worldwide trend, but why do you think Aussies have gravitated towards SUVs in recent times?
There's a couple of reasons that are particular to Australia. Number one, we are fundamentally an urbanised country, so that 80% of the market sits on the east coast of Australia. But we always have the dream of doing the drive. And an SUV does cover that considerably well. But SUVs today have also made huge ground so that there's no longer a sacrifice in owning an SUV over a sports car, so to speak. You still have all the luxury, all the refinement, all the handling. There is no sacrifice to owning an SUV. There's really only the benefit of a high riding position, combined with an ability to go anywhere.
Now, I've admired Maseratis for years. I remember my dad taking me to the motor show in the 80s to show me Maseratis. And when I looked at the Levante, I thought, oh, really, an SUV Maserati? I've got to say, after driving it, it's a very different experience to most SUVs. Yes, it's high-end and it's high performance, but even in the seating position, it felt quite different.
Yes, you'll notice for Maserati, everything we do must adhere to our core values. And that means if it's a Quattroporte, a Gran Turismo, a Ghibli, or even a Levante. So the Levante for us is really the Maserati of SUVs. It is an SUV that has performance. It's an SUV that has design. It's an SUV that has exclusivity. It's an SUV that is made in Italy. It's an SUV that has the driver at the centre of everything it does. And that driving position is a key feature. And the fact that you're not sitting up like you're in an armchair, you're still sitting down, relatively low. You have a racing driving position even in an SUV. So the experience you get with the Levante is equal to the experience that you would get in most other Maseratis.
I think for many of us, Glenn, I know you've obviously grown up in a car-loving family. Many of us dream when we're kids and put the posters on the wall of Italian sports cars, be they Ferraris or Maseratis, Lamborghinis, and they are a dream. Is Maserati expanding its base a great deal to become, I guess, more attainable in a way?
Look, yes. I mean, fundamentally, we are expanding, but we've had to expand. It was only a number of years ago that the brand was doing 6,000 cars a year.
That's right across the world.
That's correct.
That's tiny in comparison, isn't it?
It is. And to survive, you need to do more. And today, you have to attract capital. And capital is a fluid thing that moves across industries, across borders. And the car industry is an industry where it's capital intensive and you need significant investment, and it takes a while to get a return. So to attract that level of capital, you have to have a business plan that will provide a return. And for Maserati, you can't get that by sitting in such a small part of the market. You have to occupy the other part of the market, which is more than 50%, and that's the luxury SUV market. So We have expanded by expanding into the segment, but what we've done is actually match customer expectations to the brand. Clearly, the luxury consumer today does want a sports saloon, does want a sports coupe, but more and more they want a luxury SUV. So if Maserati didn't do that, they were well and truly left behind.
Your Gran Turismo sports car, your two-door, is an exquisite sports car. It's high end. Do you still see a future for companies like Maserati and other manufacturers in building those style of sports cars?
For Maserati, it's absolutely important. The Gran Turismo is at the core of our DNA. Maserati will always make a Gran Turismo, a Grand Touring sports car. We will always make that. We will always make a sports sedan. So for Quattroporte, it's the four-door sedan with a racing engine. Those two models are absolutely core and fundamental to the Maserati DNA.
And you just mentioned engines. They actually are Ferrari-derived engines, aren't they?
Yes, so the engines themselves are generally designed by Maserati and made by Ferrari at the Maranello plant. So you'll notice most of them have the red rocket covers, so you can see that's a nod to the where they've come from.
Yeah, stunning cars, Glenn. Absolutely stunning. Thanks for spending some time with you today and telling the story of Maserati in recent years.
Clinton, that is a pleasure.
Glenn Seely, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Maserati.
You're listening to Weekend Lifestyle on Talking Lifestyle.
We talk a bit of travel on a Sunday afternoon. I thought let's look at travel with a bit of a twist, travelling in a Maserati, because for many of us, we dream of owning an Italian